It has been almost 30 years that I've been in Greater China. Obviously, China has changed a great deal during that time. 30 years ago, many companies were just setting up operations here to manufacture or to source goods. And of course, over that time, China has become the leading place in the world for manufacturing, has become not just a cheap location to produce, but has become a place that's well known for cutting edge, top level manufacturing and sourcing. China's place in the world has also changed. China has risen up in terms of GDP. Now China is the second largest economy in the world. And during that 30 years, again, the Chinese became some of the world's largest consumers. The goods that Chinese consumers buy has also changed because China has become a country with many wealthy middle-class consumers. China has sent people abroad as well, right? The numbers of Chinese students going overseas is hundreds of thousands every year. And so, China has really grown, prospered, developed its own companies in many of the areas. And what I would say is the nature of trade with China and China's trade with the world has also changed, right? So one of the things that's happened is because of the COVID interruptions, people did look a little bit to diversify their supply chains, but China continues to be really critical to many companies' supply chains. But also in that time frame, Chinese manufacturers have started to go to other parts of the world. As supply chains have shifted, China continues to invest as well. So what you're starting to see is Chinese factories in places like Vietnam and India and Mexico. So as the flows of goods change, China's continued to play a role in that. Certainly, many of the changes I talked about were opportunities for U.S. companies. And so U.S. companies have been coming to China for the better part of 30 years. As all of these are major multinational companies, they often talk about you need to be in China because China needs to be part of your global overall structure. AmCham China member companies, many of them, most of them have found opportunities in China, whether it be to produce goods here, to source goods here, and increasingly to sell goods to the China market, again, as China has continued to become more prosperous and wealthy. One of the things that's happened over the past 20 years as well is local Chinese companies have grown up to compete. And so now foreign companies that we believe have very good products and services that would like to sell them, they now have local competitors they have to work for as well. As the economies sort of go up and down, as China economy starts to slow a little bit, but China continues to be a very major consumer, and so you'll see some adjustments. Again, China was initially a low-cost provider. As China becomes more expensive, as labor rates rise, some foreign companies who have been in China will start to slowly move their supply chains other places, but Chinese companies themselves are doing the same thing. So again, a very fascinating and interesting experience as these changes happen. Every year when we do our business climate survey, we do ask companies, are you planning to leave China? The vast majority of our companies say right now they're not planning to leave. There was a little increase in those who are looking for other opportunities, but the vast majority of companies right now say that they're planning to be here for the long term. I think the key is, do they continue to get access? Is this continuing to be a place where they can competitively work and compete and sell? One of the challenges during COVID-0 was many companies, including Chinese companies, had their supply chains interrupted. And so everybody wants to make sure that their supply chains are a little bit more resilient, which might mean that you have one or two places that you add to make sure you can source from as well. But we don't see a huge move of people headed out the door. Yeah, the China market will continue to be attractive, I believe, for certainly the next couple decades, as far as I can see. Certainly when we did our business climate survey this past year, we saw a huge increase from last year in optimism from companies that sell into the consumer market. You continue to hear of brands that do retail, whether it be to sell coffee or to sell goods and services, continue to expand in China and see an opportunity here. Innovation, that continues to make changes. So for example, a number of, let's say, auto companies have come to China, and China now is a major player and competitor in EVs. It still doesn't change the fact that American companies want to be here and want to sell. People often do prefer to buy good quality products, and many U.S. companies, that's part of their brand. Again, as China has become wealthier, what it wanted to buy has moved up the chain. China continues to, of course, upgrade what it expects for its own citizens. So healthcare is an obvious place. And then, everything from airplanes to coffee, we think Americans sell the best. So we hope that they can all access this market. When we survey our members, they tell us the number one concern is U.S. China relations. So if the U.S. and China are getting along, it makes it a lot easier for business to operate. And so that's a really important part for our members. Unlike rivals in the past, the U.S. and China are rivals in many ways, but they also have a very robust, complicated, intertwined trade relationship. So we need each other. We need to do business together. Of course, as technology, everything from semiconductors to AI, often are also considered national security issues. And again, it makes it a complicated structure. So you have people on both sides, in the United States and in China, who say that we should trade with each other less. We have folks on both sides who say we should make everything at home. Those of us in the business community who study comparative advantage, we realize that the two countries have done well by trading together. That would be my preference. AmCham China in general is for much freer trade. We like to have fewer restrictions, and so in general, I understand the challenges about U.S. China relations, but I also see the benefits that we've given each other by trading together. I'm a big believer that business builds bridges, but I think business continues to be a positive force and again focuses on everyone's comparative advantages and trying to find ways to cooperate. So business is a natural bridge. The United States and China are the number one and number two largest economies in the world. And so when the U.S. does well, when China does well, other people feel that in their own economies. And so it's important for our two economic engines to be firing well. The U.S. and China, if we continue to get along and bring stability to the world, that will have a nice sort of peace dividend for everybody else in the world. China will continue to see its economy grow and continue to diversify and continue to innovate. Many of our companies say, because they're global companies, they need to be operating around the world, and China in a number of areas has continued to be innovative. Most recently, we've seen it in electric vehicles, but we've also seen it in other technologies like payment technologies and video streaming, etc. And so, as China continues to innovate, it's a great place for companies to be to make sure that they are fully taking advantage of all the innovations globally.